Good day and welcome to this episode on our series Python for Beginners. Today we're going to look a little bit further at what is inside a Python program, and we're going to continue by using the example of the chaos program we created last time. So if you can remember, I said this hashtag and what I wrote here is called a comment, and comments are not executed by Python. They are intended for the human reader of the program. So we can even write the author there. So I'll say author and you can put your name. And then you can even put the date, for example, and whatever other interesting information. We can even come down here and explain that this here is called a logistic function. And this is what comments are. It's written in human readable language. I'm using English. Now you also notice that we have this def main. This is a function called main. Now we could have ignored this function and written this program without using this main. And I'll show it to you. I've written it in another file. Something like this. Our program could have simply been these 5 lines of code over here. However, the benefit of using a function called main, in our case over here, and in most cases in Python we will have a function called main in our driver class, is that when we run the program and it executes and we see the results in the shell, we can actually run the program again by just invoking this function called main without having to close down the shell and having to restart the program and run it again. And I'll demonstrate that to you real quick. Let's just save that. And then we press F5. And the shell is starting. It says enter a number between 0 and 1. Let's put 0.7. We get our results. Now, instead of closing the shell and having to press F5 again, all I do to run the program again, I say main. And I enter, and it runs again and asks me to enter a number again. So let's just do that. And the program executes and ends. Now I just want to show you something also real quick. If I type main without the parentheses, I get this output. And this simply tells me that main is stored at this address location in memory. But we'll cover that a bit later. It's not important for you right now. So let's close the shell and continue just going through what is inside of this program. Now the first line over here is really where we're starting. We're printing a statement to the screen which is going to be there to tell the user what the program is about. So it is very useful to have something like this to tell your user what is going to be happening in the program. So that's some useful information. Then in the next line over here, what is happening here? X. This is an example of a variable. Now a variable is used to give a name to some value that we can then refer to at other points in the program. This entire line is actually just a statement to get some input from the user. But there's quite a lot going on in this line, and we won't go into depth right now because it's too much for us as we are beginning our journey in Python. But all you need to know for now is what this line accomplishes. It accomplishes the purpose of getting input from the user, who must enter a number between 0 and 1. This will then go through this input function, and then the input function result, which would be a number between 0 and 1, would go through this eval function. And then the result of all of this would be stored in the variable x. And we will go into data types in later lesson, where we will cover integer and floating type and all those interesting little bits. Even strings, because this here inside the print statement, in these single quote marks, this is actually a string data type. But we'll cover those in later lessons. Right, let's move on to our loop. For I in range 10. This is the way we write loops in Python. And when we have this colon over here, it indents 4 spaces. And then everything inside the indentation is what will be looped. So here we are looping 10 times. And the statements that's going to loop 10 times are these 2 statements here. Remember, this is a comment, and this comment will not be executed by Python. So inside the for loop, we're going to go through and execute this logistic function first. And this is again the variable x we had up here, right? It's going to get a new value. X is going to get the value of what? 3.9 times whatever x was over there, multiplied by 1 minus x. So we first do this calculation over here on the right hand side, then it gets assigned to the value of x. So x is going to have a new value, and then we print that value of x to the screen. Once we're done printing, we go up and it's going to loop the second time, and we have a new value of x, not the initial value of x anymore, but the new value of x that we had down here. And we're going to go through the logistic function again, get a new value of x, print it, and loop, and so on 10 times. And that's our little program. Alright, so before we leave, I have a little programming exercise for you. I want you to modify the chaos program so that the number of values to print is determined by the user. So you can pause this video, try it out, and I'll be giving a hint, and then you can pause it, and if you still get stuck, watch to the end. So the hint is the following. Okay. Hint. We need to get the value from the user somewhere near the top of the program. Okay, that's the first hint. And I wonder if you can figure that out. You must ask yourself, how do we get input from the user? Right? You have seen an example of this in this program. Where is that? Right over here. We got numerical input from the user. So what do I need to do? I need to use something like this. Okay, and here's the solution. Solution. Let's do this. We say x, enter a number between 0 and 1. And then I want to ask how many numbers should I print, right? Or how many times do you want to loop? You need to determine how you're going to ask the user for the input. But basically what we want is how many numbers should we print? So I'll say something like n. Now why am I not using x again? It is because x is going to be used as a variable for our logistic function, where we're calculating the numbers in the chaotic behavior. So I've got to use a different variable name. So I will use n, and I'll use eval and input once again. So n gets the variable eval, input, and then I type in a string statement and I will say how many numbers should I print. Okay, so how does that look? We got to put the right amount of closing parentheses to match with the opening parentheses. Okay, so let's see if this works. Okay, but before we run it, let's just make sure that the logic works. Okay, we're getting our input from the user for the number between 0 and 1. This will go into our logistic function. Then we're getting input from the user as to how many numbers we should print. But now if we run this, it's still only going to loop 10 times. So there's something else we need to do. And that's the last challenge for you. You can pause it, see if you can do the change. All right, we need to change this 10 and replace it with n. That's all we need to do. So we save that and we hit F5, enter a number between 0 and 1. Let's go for 0.2775. Hit enter. How many numbers should I print? Let's say only 5. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everything looking good. Let's just test it out one more time. We can run main. Let's go for 0.112. How many numbers to print? Let's go for 3. That looks about right. Okay, everybody. So thank you for watching. And in the next one, we're going to cover a little bit more interesting things in the software development process, and then implementing a very nice example program to illustrate that process. So, see you in the next one.